Thank you.
It's on your email too.
Yeah, I just wanted to, so their voices could be differentiated when I'm transcribing.
I just want to know, where do you draw from? You bring us to tears. You take us through so many emotions. Yeah, I'm about to cry now. Each and every episode. Where do you draw from? Each, and this is for
all of us. You want to start?
No, go for it.
I feel like you should start, but I'm gonna.
Whatever you want.
Go ahead, you go.
I mean, our writer's room, in order to be part of it, you have to be sort of willing to bare your soul. We always talk about sort of when we first all came together, those first few weeks of the job, season 1, it felt to all of us like group therapy, honestly. Like, we all got together and everybody just told sort of their deepest, darkest secrets, kind of, and sort of all of the most emotional stuff they'd ever gone through, and it kind of set the tone then for the whole first season, and also sort of like what our writer's room would be like, which in order for the show to work, it just had to be a place of, you know, sharing what you've been through.
Yeah, I think, and to that point, and I think what it also did for those first 2 weeks was kind of set the tone and also allow us to know that we could be safe and comfortable, and as things happen through our lives, we could always sort of like divulge and share and be ourselves, and that was something that was very, very helpful. And Shuckree, you said something about coming in to the space and like, yeah, because
I came in season 2, and so it was two things you notice really immediately coming into the This Is Us writers room. Number one, that people wear their emotions on their sleeve, so there's gonna be some crying like in the room. That happens for real. So it's not just that you're crying at home, it's also some people are sharing those emotions around the table like this. And I think the other thing you notice is that it's personal. So people are, to your point, where it comes from people's own personal stories and their own personal background. Things that they share that might just be like a little nugget of something will end up on the screen, you know. So that's always been really interesting.
What is it like, because you guys are writers for the show, so you have like a little bit of separation from it, and it's a very, very talked about show. Do you guys, if someone's talking about it while you're out, do you engage in it? Or do you just sit back and listen and be like, you like that?
I never engage. I love to spy. Like, I think it's so much fun. It's one of those things where it's like, what I always get whenever like I'm introducing, like I'm talking to someone about what I do, I say like, I work on This Is Us. And either they're like, I don't watch it, but my mom does. Or I don't watch it, but I know somebody who does. So it's like, it's always very easy to sort of be in those spaces, because weirdly enough, I don't actually engage with a lot of people who have like seen the show and like every single episode in that way. So, but whenever I hear, like, I remember I was at Target the other day and 2 people were talking about the Vegas episode, and they were talking about Kate and Beth's scene in the Vegas episode, and they were going back and forth, and I was just smiling as I was paying for my water. Like, it was just like, it's lovely. But yeah, never engage.
In that same token, your friends and family must feel some type of way about their close friends writing on this show. So I would imagine, like, if I was your best friend, I would be like your extra best friend. Like, you got anything funny? So how do you respond to your friends and family?
That's a really good one. I
see your Facebook, they're proud of you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, they're very, people are, it's interesting because part of it is like, people may say something, everybody, it's hard to be in a position where everybody sort of knows what you do for a living and they sort of know the show. Right. I've been on other shows where it's much easier to be like, oh yeah, I work on this show and whatever, nobody cares. But I think that the thing, it's always interesting to hear people's responses to the episodes and how it either helped or impacted their own particular life. And that happens with your friends and family too. I mean, you know, small note, but my mother like ran out to get smoke detectors for her apartment in a much different way than she would have before, certainly. But yeah, I think it's I don't know. It's impactful to have friends and family.
Speaking of that, how did you feel about the crock pot episode? Like, when the backlash a little bit from the crock pot episode, like it was kind of bad and it was kind of good. But slow cooker.
The slow cooker episode. It was so funny because when we were figuring it out, we were so worried that there would be backlash backlash against the guy who gives them the slow cooker. We were like, oh my gosh, that poor guy, everyone's gonna hate that guy. And then we woke up in the morning and people had turned on the slow cooker. Like they were, that was the enemy. So that was really surprising to us. We did not anticipate that, and we sort of immediately set about being like, guys, this is a made-up story with a fictional appliance. So it was really surprising, but it's an episode I love. Like the last few minutes of that episode when sort of the fire starts and we're sort of going through Jack's life is one of my favorite things we've ever done. Co-written by Kay here, so.
So how much is it your imagination versus like your real world experience when you're writing these stories? Because I know you just said that one was made up, and then some things you really feel the emotion in the room.
Yeah. It's hard to break it down like, 50% or whatever, but it's definitely a combination of both. I think it's always, people are always going to bring their personal stories. Of course you have to, it's not anybody's biography. You're going to fictionalize it, and like I said, it may be that a personal story gives you the germ of an idea, and you start to build on it with fictional elements, and obviously the show is fictional, so imaginary stuff. But I think part of what makes it resonate for people is that it actually comes from a true place. So it typically comes from people's lives in some way, shape, or form.
How do the actors react to what it is that you guys have written for them? Because a lot of times you hear, sometimes people will come in and they have no idea where their characters are going to go, what's going to happen next, and they're like, oh my God, I'm going to do this. So how do they react to some of the things that you guys have written for them?
Before the season starts, we sort of, as we're breaking the season, and we sort of have whiteboards like this, and we break the season, we bring the actors in and have a conversation with them about what their arc is going to be. So we plan very diligently, a lot this season, I'm very excited about. So we plan very diligently, and so we bring in each of the cast members and we talk to them saying like, Kevin, during this course of the season, you're going to go down a spiral of sorts, and you're going to sort of have this dependency, and it's something that's connected to your father, and it's something you're going to be dealing with for the rest of your life. And so it's like we give them that sense of it so they know what's coming as a big picture. Now each episode that sort of occurs and happens, they get the script, and they sort of, the way our production, bless you sis, the way our production goes, it's sort of like they get the script and they're working on another episode, they get the script, and then they start shooting about like 5 or so days later. So it's like there's really, it happens, but they already know where they're going. Yeah.
I gotta say this, I'm sorry. The first season, the episode where the father passes away, and oh my God,
William.
Yeah,
Memphis.
Yeah, and she gets the postcard at the end. I'm not a crier, but I was messed up because I would DVR the show and I'd watch it in the morning before going to work, and I was messed up that day because when she got that postcard, I was like, wow, he did not forget, and it was just so.
The show is really dope, and it's given new life to Mandy Moore. It's taken It's taken Sterling K and took him to another level of his career. And we watch these award shows and we see people thank people who we never heard of and don't really know. To be a part of that magic and a part of the success that's, the process that's taking Sterling K from this level in his career to that level and brought back Mandy. Can you guys describe how that feels to be a part of that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's so exciting. I mean, Sterling is such a fascinating case where you're just like, oh, you were like the best actor, and you're 40 years old, and you were just under the radar. And I mean, he did OJ, which was amazing, and that was the beginning. And then it's just, oh, you're the most talented man we never
alive.
Know. So it's really thrilling. And I think with Mandy too, it's like she'd done, she had her music career, and then she went away for a while, and she wasn't sure. She was thinking of sort of segueing out of acting, and I think people have been really impressed with what she brought to the table. So it's very, I think, exciting for all of us because we all feel proud together. Like we sort of feel proud of the part that we're doing in the room, and we feel proud of them. Like we really do. We screen each episode together, and we'll be like, oh, look at Starling, look like we really, it is a family, so it is very exciting.
What's the challenge when you have characters like Randall who are kind of the favorite, and in keeping the other characters as involved and interesting to the audience? Because I know I'm always like, where's Kate? And I mean, where's what's going on with the other ones? Sometimes I'm like, I always want to know what's going on with Randall, but I wonder how do you keep them exciting? What's going on in their lives?
I mean, with our show, what's nice is that everyone has a different favorite.
Right.
So it's like depending on who you talk to, exactly, it's like, where's Kate? I need more Kate. But I think for us, they are all so brilliant and so exciting to write for that we don't feel that way. None of that sort of enters our heads because everyone to us is getting such a fantastic response.
I have a question. I'm sorry. I already told you I love you, and I already told you thank you. But my question for you is the writing, as far as like, one of the things that you guys have perfected, and I don't know if it's in the writer's room or is it more of the directing, the flashbacks. Because a lot of times when I watch shows that deal with flashbacks, I get confused, you know, and I get lost in the sauce. When you guys are writing, are you actually writing in the sequence of the flashback, you know, for that episode, or is that more like, because it's brilliant the way you will present something and you give us a morsel. It's almost like we get a morsel of each character, and we're even in the new season and we're still learning each character by using the flashbacks to give the backstory. So can you talk to me a little bit about that?
I think that's before I came to the show, I was always a fan of that, because I thought it was an interesting way, not to get too intellectual, but I thought it was an interesting way to sort of experience life, right? Because we talk a lot in the writer's room about the past informing the present, and it's sort of like how we all live. We have our own past, and we can pin back to moments that were transformative for us, or that were meaningful or hurtful or traumatic or whatever, and they mean something to us like right now, even if it's 20 years ago or 30 years ago, what. And this show does a very good job of presenting that in 43 minutes. And I think that's part of the magic of the show. So I think with a thought to making sure that we're always opening up our characters a little bit more, a half a turn, a little bit more every time we go to the past, and using it as not just a device, but as something that tells us more about character. I think that's something we try to be really cognizant of and try to do.
And it comes across perfectly.
So
Thank you.
in this new season, Miguel gets a little bit more, we get to feel a little bit more Miguel and him in his relationship with Mandy Moore and Kevin. Will we get to unveil him a little bit more in the new season to kind of show how him and Mandy actually got together? I know we talked about it a little in this past season or whatever, but will we get to dive into Miguel a little bit more?
Absolutely, and I think one of the things that's so great about the way our show functions, and this is one area that we talk about a lot of people just want everything right now. They wanted Jack's death the minute you saw him. And it was just sort of the thing that's always so funny, because for us, we're very lucky. We always talk about, in season 1, we had already broken and written 9 episodes before we premiered. So we didn't really have the opportunity to sort of like get feedback from the audience until we were so far into our season. So literally every single question, every single concern that everybody has, it's an unfolding. You know what I mean? We're going to get to it. It would have been so gratuitous to just be like, oh, dad died XYZ, without actually going on that journey during that time period. So it's like we understand people's frustrations with certain things, but for us, we're always like, guys, it's okay, because we know we're going to get there. So that is the long way of saying absolutely. That is sort of like, this woman is 60-something years old, married to this man. Of course we have to get there, you know what I mean? Like, and get there in a way that informs where our children are, where our adults are, what their past, experiences were, and how we got to this place. So we will absolutely get there. We were lucky enough to get picked up for 2 additional seasons, so we broke the story. In season 1, we haven't heard about 4 yet. Praise God. But we were lucky enough, so we broke story with that in mind. So we're very patient.
It's always sometimes you kind of feel like the husband always kind of gets lost when he's not a main character. So just kind of want to make sure he doesn't get lost. But I think his story is still a big part of why Kevin is the way he is.
Absolutely.
So when we come back in season 3, we're going to be dealing with the time period sort of right after Jack died. So you're definitely going to be seeing sort of the beginning of sort of how Miguel started interacting with the family. Obviously, we've already shown this season that they didn't end up getting together romantically until 2008. But we're going to still see sort of what happened there in that immediate period.
But it's coming.
So something that you guys dealt with last season that I thought you did very well and didn't shy away from the ugliness of it, and that is with Randall being raised by 2 white parents, right? And the fact that there were things that they, as much as they loved him and treated him, the same as the other kids, there was a lot that they didn't know. And so when the black woman had to tell her, you need to take him to a different barber. Like, you know, you need to do this, you need to
Put
do
some
that.
lotion on.
Yeah, like he needs some
Baby
lotion.
was
He's
ashy.
ashy.
Baby was ashy.
Which was perfect, right? But like, so how do you guys make sure that you keep that? Because a lot of times you see shows like Different Strokes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where he adopted these 2 black kids, and it was just like he took these 2 kids out the ghetto, he rescued them, and you know there wasn't really anything connecting them to their culture. And so you've dealt with that a little bit differently with this show. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I'll say honestly, like, and Shuckree can attest to this, the way Dan Fogelman, Isaac, and Elizabeth run the room, it is one that allows for complete and honest conversation.
Right.
And it's like we are able to sort of put everything on Front Street, like we just sort of lay it bare. And so we have arguments, heated and passionate, where we talk about different sides of topics, and we're able to sort of be as honest and transparent as possible. So we get into some serious race conversations, and conversations that are complex, and conversations that open up perspectives from different people. And I will say the reason why this is different from Different Strokes is the people behind the scenes perspective, and who is willing to listen to who, and sort of what representation actually means on the other side.
Right.
And so that's something that Dan has made a big point and a mission for him to do, to say that, you know what, I want my writer's room to look like what the world looks like, and I want those perspectives to be reflected, because again, this is us, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's really it.
No, I 100% agree, and not to mention, I mean, we have 3 black writers, and none of us are the same.
Nope.
And that's I think that's an important thing
Yes, it is.
to just know about our writers.
Yes.
I disagree with everything. Everything.
Can you give us an example?
Oh, what's not an example?
Do you think it's more about being a woman than being black?
Well, for me, my head goes to black first, and then, you know, because it's just informed by my blackness. So all of that is to say that I think we come at it from our backgrounds and who we are as people whenever we're addressing any sort of topic. So for us, it's all of it. It's the womanness, it's the Nigerianness, it's the blackness, it's all of it that comes, you know, out. And for him, it's the everything that he is that comes out. And for Elizabeth, it's everything that who she is that comes out. And so for all of us, we're bringing everything about who we are into all of these topics and
How
conversations.
many writers is it total?
There are 10 of us.
We want the example.
This is y'all.
Of you guys disagreeing? You guys
Oh,
disagreeing?
about something in particular?
Yeah.
In the room or politics?
In the room.
Both.
That's a good. I can't think of one. We'll think of one before the.
It was lotion or no lotion.
Okay,
We
well,
were just arguing about something yesterday.
while you think of an example, when you there's always these theories. So like, I love the show. So anytime I see a headline that has "This Is Us" in it at all, that it's like it might be something like, oh, this theory about Beth for her future, that kind of. So when you see these articles with the different theories and stuff, do you read them? Do you laugh at them? Do you hate them? The fact that people are trying to figure out
We do
what.
all of those things.
Okay.
But we love it. We're Kay is like very tapped into our social media. But we follow it. It's fun for us. Like, and you never know, when we aired the Super Bowl episode, when you flash forward to Randall, I guess like his hand was out of screen.
Yes.
And people were like, he doesn't have a hand
Yes.
in the future. And we were like, what? you kind of just never know. And then every once in a while, like, you'll read something like really interesting. Like, we read one about that Jack died on 9/11, and that was pretty fascinating. And we read one about, like, because we had done a big sort of washing machine episode early on, that perhaps it was related to the washing machine, and
We were mad about that one.
We were like,
that
that's where
sounds
to
great.
we're like, we should have done that.
That's my washing machine.
Are you ever harassed on the street from like people that are obsessed with the show and want you to go in a certain direction, and they're like, I want you to Randall to do this or do that?
I'm telling you.
Yeah, he's like, people don't know.
Cast is definitely.
We're fine.
We're
Yeah.
fine.
So y'all not really win.
But there are, we had this thing, the Vulture article that like when we revealed that Kate was pregnant, there was like a whole, we get pitches from publications.
Oh, okay.
And so it's like they're publications that literally tell us where we should go with stories and how we should tell those stories, which we laugh at. But there was this Vulture article a couple of months ago after Kate was discovered that she was pregnant, and they basically detailed very sort of like just assuming so aggressively. They detailed what would happen with her pregnancy, and then after we sort of like went down the storyline, they actually printed a retraction apologizing.
Very nice.
It was very nice.
Wow.
They were like, "Well, you guys, you zigged when I thought you were gonna zag." Yeah. We get that.
I'm just curious to know, like, how far are you guys along in creating this story? And I'm pretty sure there's a bunch of ideas that don't make it to the show. Do you guys remember what some of those were? Could you share?
As far along, we know how the series ends.
Don't say end. Don't say end.
Right?
Don't say end.
Good, never ends. But we know where everyone's going essentially. But I'm like, pitches that never made it in.
There must. I mean, there's some
We have
every
like
day.
boards of them. Oh, we had this. In season one, there was this story that we had about like the family goes to like a carnival where Jack sees Rebecca singing, and then like there was this kissing booth, and like there was a whole story. Yeah, we have a bunch of ideas that don't make it up into the show. So yeah, there are a lot.
I definitely want to commend you on the Vegas situation where Beth and Randall got into it at the Magic Mike thing, and they fought right there in front of everybody, but then came together and was like, "Oh, we have this once a year. It's not a big thing. It's not a big deal." I thought the communication between the two were amazing. I think a lot of people need to see that it doesn't always have to end in heartache or pain or breakup or divorce or whatever. That you actually really can communicate. I thought that was commendable.
Touching on that, how do you develop such heartwarming and tears, but yet it's not so dramatic that you just walk away from the show like, oh my God, traumatized. You have that balance.
I think people still be
You know, 'cause
traumatized.
for me, I get scared of watching shows
Definitely.
when everybody dies, everybody's, blood, but you all can create depth and sadness and joy, and you know what I mean, without us being traumatized.
I don't know. I've walked away twice.
But I think one of the secret sauce of This Is Us is that you get a total bag of emotions in one episode. I will go from crying to cracking up to Jack, to Jack being like, Lord Jesus, Jack. And then, so I feel like it's the smorgasbord of emotions in every episode. I know that I'm going to laugh. I know I'm going to cry, so I have my Kleenex ready. I know that something is going to be relatable and something that's going to resonate in my marriage. I'm married, like Beth and Randall. So I think that's kind of like the secret sauce as well, because you're not just crying the whole episode. You get a lot of different emotions, happy, sad, and thank you for addressing adoption and fostering as well. Thank you, because now my daughter wants me to foster a kid. So, yeah, thanks.
Deja, speaking of fostering, in this episode this week where we got to learn a little bit more about her and her background, like that character, she's like the tearjerker anytime she's on the screen, because you want, I feel for her mother, but I really want her to be with Beth and Randall. Like, how did you come up with that? Like, where is that?
That was Deja was first introduced as a story point for Randall at the end of season 1, or at least the idea of adoption and fostering, and we took him on this journey. But it was she was introduced in 203, which Elizabeth wrote in 203, and it was just sort of like when we met her, we just fell in love with her, and she was there, like Elizabeth was there, can talk about the casting process of Lyric, but it's just like, it's that girl, it's just her.
Lyric was fascinating because it was an open casting call to all over the country, and we got all of these amazing kids self-taped, like hundreds of submissions, and then it was Whittle, and we were like, who is this girl? And she'd never been, I think she'd maybe been in one thing, and we were so excited to find her. But then moving forward, like, we had so many conversations because we didn't want to villainize Shauna, because we felt like these two had this incredible bond, and we really wanted to honor that bond. And a lot of time was spent on, like, how do we tell this story where there's no bad guy here, and all you're rooting for is Deja to be okay, but we understand where Sean is coming from. We understand the love between them, but we also know how wonderful and safe she would feel staying with Randall and Beth. So that was sort of a long conversation of what's the best way to execute it, and that is sort of what brought us to doing a full Deja episode, because we figured, like, let's show this girl's whole life. Let's show everything she's gone through, so that by the end, it's so beautifully done by Kay when she gives that speech and she gets to, I'm really tired. Like, you feel that with her, you know, and you kind of really understand also the choice that Sean is making, and that it's for her daughter, that it's actually a choice out of love, which is, again, you can only do that with a brilliant script. So
you guys have bounced back from the past, and now you've jumped into the future and making Tess older. Is that something, are we going to be bouncing back from the past to the future? Like, how are we going to be doing this now?
We will be exploring a wide range of sort of their experiences. So that's a time period we're definitely going to be revisiting again. So, yeah.
And what are some of your favorite shows, and also some of your favorite storytellers, like other writers maybe? Influences.
My favorite show of all time, in all of 6 Feet Under. I watch 6 Feet Under. I binge watch 6 Feet Under every Christmas, like holiday, because like it's the most lovely thing to watch over the holidays. But those 5 seasons really did it for me, and it was the first time that it was the first time when I was, watching something that I felt was very patient, and was something that I could sort of, explore a life with the characters. And the funny thing is, like, 6 Feet Under, and then my first job was on Queen Sugar, and then coming in. So I've only ever worked in loved adult siblings, and only ever told adult sibling stories. I'd be terrible in like NCIS.
My favorite shows are Breaking Bad, The Wire, and Friday Night Lights.
Yes.
Probably be my top 3. Writers? I mean, my favorite television writer is Patty. Well, my favorite writer is Patty Chayefsky. Anyway, nobody knows who that is.
What did they write?
He wrote Network and Hospital and what was I gonna say? Oh, I tend to get a lot of influence from books, though. Edward P. Jones is my favorite.
Oh, I love Edward
in the
P. Jones.
world. Yeah. So yeah.
Breaking Bad or The Wire?
Consistency. I'm gonna say, well, Breaking Bad was
Wire.
they're tough. Breaking Bad was the most consistent.
Wire.
I think The Wire had the best single season.
Which season?
Boys of Summer?
I'm gonna say 3.
Yes.
I'm gonna say
They
3.
had to do season 3 because after season 2 it was like, oh, what's going on?
Season 2 took it so separate. That was the doc.
Yeah.
And 3 was Boys of Summer, right?
Yeah.
With the young girl.
No, 4 was.
4 was
Boys,
the,
yeah.
4 was school. Yeah.
Okay. What was 3? 3 was political, right? Mayor office.
Mayor came in.
Okay, I don't know.
Anyway.
Okay, yeah. Anyway,
but it was back to the
yeah.
Do you ever feel like you have to introduce a character who won't have any real permanency, but might have a short stay within an episode to move a story along? Like, not something corny like Yoda at the gas station, like seek and you shall find. But how do you? Because all of the characters are so rich, they have such an extensive storyline. There's so many places you can go. Do you ever feel like maybe we just need to end like a stopper, just to kind of slow down the progression of the the story arc, to extend it out into further seasons, like like a chance meeting kind of character or anything like that? Would you ever consider? Because every character is there for such an extensive amount of time, and we get really invested in them. But sometimes you might need just a quick guide to impart.
The Maid in Vegas.
Yeah, like in the first season when Beth had to go and get birthday cake or something for Jack, and she went in a little store to try to get stuff to make cake. Like, do you ever feel like maybe we'll just put in like a little Easter egg of something that you're only going to see them that one time, but if you're a fan of the show, you might see them later down the line, and they prove to be that was good.
Okay.
We've never really done that yet. We do love, we love to sort of occasionally have sort of a meaningful interaction with someone somewhere you'd never expect it. So like, we love doing scenes like Toby at the distribution, like UPS center after the miscarriage, talking to that guy who helped him. Or Randall, sort of when we did our 2008 episode, meeting the guy in the hardware store, because it's something that Dan, who created our show, has experienced, and that I think everyone's experienced these sort of unexpected connections with people where you least expect it. So that we do occasionally love to do, but we haven't yet done like then that person comes back.
I would love to see the Pilgrim hat guy come back. That'd be dope, from the bumper to the guy who got the Pilgrim hat from.
Are there Easter eggs in the show that people just haven't caught yet? Are there things that we?
I think everything could potentially be a possibility. I mean, one of the things that we did that could be kind of like what you were talking about was the fireman in the first episode who drops Randall off at the hospital, and then we end up sort of exploring his story later on and seeing how that experience happened. And I think it comes from, we look through, whenever we're sort of breaking story and we're looking through our tapestry, there's certain moments that stick out for certain people in their minds and say like, okay, this person was involved in a formative part, you know, an important part of one of our characters' lives, and so we're excited and interested to see how that came to be, essentially. So we're always looking for ways to create a narrative that informs our characters by significant people or seemingly insignificant people that we've seen through the stories.
Is the goal to make the audience cry every week? Like if you see, since you're tuned into social media, if you see, this one wasn't as sad this week, does it make you feel like, damn, you know, I gotta go back to it?
Oh my God.
The thing that's so funny is, like, I think that wasn't something we created. That was something that was created out of, I guess, the sphere of people watching the show, which was sort of like, oh, that was so emotional, that was so sad. And then the narrative started sort of happening outside of us. So we don't really chase the tears. We chase pathos. We always want to write things that have something to say. And so sometimes when you have something to say, it evokes an emotion. But we don't necessarily work that way. But we definitely know that there is a narrative around the show that sometimes equates X with Y in a way that we don't control. But we're happy when people are watching it, even if they didn't cry. We hope they enjoy it.
Do you cry? I've never cried.
Do you cry when you write it?
Like,
when we write it,
do you ever cry?
Once I have, but we always cry when we watch it together.
Oh, yes. Okay.
After every cut of an episode is done, like, and sort of has gone through the editing process, a few days before it airs, we'll all watch it as a group. And then, like, honestly, even though we've all worked on every moment of it, we watch as fans because, like, our cast is so good. So we are all in a room together weeping. And I will say is, like, it makes us feel like, all right, we did it. We got him this time. So that's when I think we do most of our crying.
I went to a screening of This Is Us, like the premiere episode.
Yeah.
And as we were walking in, they were handing out Kleenex.
Yeah.
It was a little packet of Kleenex, and it had This Is Us on it.
Yeah.
And I'm walking in like, okay, like, you know, because the marketing was so brilliant that you knew it was going to be something special, but it gave nothing away. Like, all I knew was someone had a baby. That's all I knew.
Yeah.
So when they gave the Kleenex, I'm like, okay, well, what am I really walking into? And it was funny because once in the premiere, once all the dots connected, all you heard was because everybody was ripping it open, and everybody was like, "Oh my God!" Like literally at the same time. And I've been hooked, line, and sinker ever since, and biggest cheerleader.
But you're fine. Like
the kid's like, I don't cry. What's wrong with me?
The only one that kind of got me was when the dad died.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like everybody's like, you didn't get your tissue. I'm like, no. I mean,
you can still be. I don't cry a lot. You can still be moved without.
Yeah.
Crying.
Okay.
And enjoy it without crying.
Yeah. Okay. I'm glad you guys didn't take it personally.
What makes a good writer? You guys are all writers. What makes someone a good writer?
That's a good question. I have an answer.
I think.
It's tough. I think what makes a good writer is the ability to tap into human emotion. And I think that comes mostly from who you are as a person. I mean, obviously there's a craft to writing but that part can be taught. The part that can't be taught is the part about empathy and the part about associating your experience with someone else who may not look like you, who may be a different gender, who may be from a different place, that you can connect to something human about them and what they might be going through and what you might be able to express that in words. I think that's what makes it a really good. So I guess it's just hard, really.
Have you ever been out and someone says, oh, you know, what do you do for a living? And you know, I'm a writer. Well, who do you write for? Have you ever like, I don't want to say.
Yes.
Because it's overwhelming.
In Ubers. Yes. Yeah.
We get that question a lot. Like, which character? You mean like which character do you write for?
No, like, do you write for the show?
If people say, oh, hey, hi, nice to meet you. What do you do? Oh, I'm a writer. What do you write for? Oh, I write for This Is Us.
Yeah.
Do you lie? Yeah. Do you just lie? I would probably lie and be like,
going down the line. I go like,
I'm a line cook.
What do you do? I'm a writer. Where do you work? At Paramount. What do you do? I work on a show. What show? A drama. What drama?
And then by the time you're there, right? Now you're at the destination.
I was curious to know, you guys had mentioned about how you come together and you told your stories. And I mean, I know you guys all have different personalities. That moment of vulnerability, was that hard to do, to share, you know, the deepest, darkest secret with these people that you don't know in order to, you know, get that emotion moving for the show?
You guys were there in that moment, season 1.
I think we still, a lot of us still have so many more secrets that have yet to be shared. But it's like, I don't think it was necessarily that we had to sort of like find it. I think it was just sort of, once it starts rolling, you feel this desire to share. It's such a, it's such a therapeutic space and environment, one that sort of like calls for, you know, open and honest sort of communication. And for us, we always felt this desire to sort of share. And I think that was part of what made it feel so special. But I definitely don't think it was anything where we felt like we had to like add to the pot in order to make it feel emotional or anything like that. But we all just felt so, you know, connected to one another, and we wanted to sort of say, I've actually been through something very similar to that. This is my version of that. And then someone else, it taps into someone else's something, and they share that. Or I had this loss, I had this heartbreak, I had this thing happen to me. And so it just sort of comes out. And I think each day we're in the room, someone else brings out something that, you know, they hadn't said before about their history or their family or something like that.
And then one last question to piggyback that. I know earlier, you know, with this show, it's so dynamic. I mean, a lot of people, it's touching different, you know, areas of people's emotions. But one thing that you mentioned was that you've been on other shows and you didn't really get the credit. Do you feel like writers don't get a lot of credit, you know, when they're writing good material? Like, I feel like This Is Us is getting credit across the board, the actors, the writers, the directors.
I think I wouldn't say credit, because I think, you know, people, you know, your name shows up on an episode, you get a check, you get credit in that sense, you know what I mean? But it's interesting, because I think what you're asking is that, like, I mean, people watch television. If you look at most television, is not great. You just watch TV to watch TV. You know, you sit down and let it just wash over you while you're cooking dinner or something like that. But occasionally there are some shows that are really, really great, and they strike a certain chord with an audience, and they mean something more than just a TV show. Mm-hmm. And those are rare. Those come about like once a decade or something like that. This just happens to be one of those shows. So being on one of those shows feels really special in a different way than other shows. It feels like you're in a cultural moment that you're living in, that you actually can kind of recognize that you're in it while you're in it, which is really surreal. But so yeah, I think it's just a different animal. And I think I don't want to speak for you, but I think all of us sort of, you go to work and you sort of figure out that like this should be just a job, but in a lot of ways it's not. In a lot of ways it's something more.
This show is about real life. So is there anything that you would say is off limits or restrictive in any way? Like, or you would tell any story? I know we touched on adoption, death. Anything like off limits or?
Anything off limits?
Well, we're on NBC.
I think we don't ever say like we're never gonna touch this. I think it would have to, we always think about, to Kay's point, like we do have to be realistic that we're on NBC. I mean, one of the things that we talk about a lot and that we tend to shy away from is commenting directly on current events. We have found that in order to bring people together, it's better not to, because that can be so divisive. That's a conversation that we have a lot, and we continue to revisit and continue to sort of think on how can we best use our platform in a way that is inclusive rather than breaking people apart.
To that point, there's a specific example that one of my favorite things that we ever did was episode 4 of this past season. After the election happened, we were all having these conversations about what our lives looked like and what the conversations we were having with our family members, and that sort of birthed the conversation between Rebecca and her mother in that episode as it related to Randall. And it was sort of we always want to comment on what's going on in the world, but through our characters, and make it feel very specific and make it feel very real and honest and organic. And so for us, we try to find ways to be who we are, through the characters. And that was something I was so excited that we got to do that. I was so excited that, it all came together the way it did, for Rebecca to be very frank and very honest when a lot of people were having a hard time talking to their parents, their uncles, their grandparents about how they were feeling about their choices, during this particular difficult time in the country. And so for Rebecca to talk to her own mother in that way was something that I was just very that got me. Yeah.
So who do you feel like the character is you out of the
Toby.
What about everyone?
Kate.
Who?
Kate.
Okay.
I'm joking. Come on.
I'm serious about Toby.
Toby is so much fun.
He is.
I could totally
You know, I didn't think I thought Toby was going to be your Easter egg. I didn't think Toby was going to last.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't. When he fell over
the
that
way
table,
that Kate,
I literally, because he felt too good to be true for Kate. You know what I mean? And everything Kate had gone through, Toby's the kind of guy we all hope to meet at a group meeting, but so I just felt like he felt too good to be true. So I was like, they're setting me up. They are setting me up. So yeah, I thought he was going to be your Easter egg. I did. So I'm happy to see him still. Yeah.
Do you all work on characters individually and then bring it back to the table? Is it something that is there a writer assigned to a character, or is it just kind of like everybody pours into each character?
We get that question. That's that's our most common question. No, everybody chips into everybody's character. It's a group effort.
Yeah, no, what we do is we sit down and we say okay guys, today we're figuring out episode 3. And then as a group, we sort of come up with the entire story together, and we sort of write bullet points of what each scene is, and then one writer is assigned that and goes off and writes a script, and then brings it back. We all read it, we all say all our opinions, that writer processes and makes whatever adjustments. But yeah, that's our process for each episode.
You guys never answered who you're...
Oh, sorry. My true answer is Randall. And I think that is a testament to what we try and do on the show, where obviously there are experiences that Randall has that have nothing to do with my experiences. But then there are other things that I just relate to so deeply in terms of some of his struggles with anxiety and sort of his feelings on his family. And I think that is it's why she can say Toby. I don't know, I still don't know if she's joking. But we try and sort of really not pretend that everyone is the same and honor what is different about each of us, but also tap into those similarities.
So is it still Kate for you?
No, it's Randall. But that's
so there's 2 Randalls and it's Toby.
Yeah.
And to William to a certain extent.
Oh,
yeah.
William. No, if I was truly being honest, it would probably be Rebecca. Oddly enough, it would be Rebecca. I feel like I've made a lot of choices in life that I wish I hadn't.
And I love the part when Rebecca said that Randall was easy. I thought that was very honest. lot of kids don't realize how much weight they put on a parent. And for a parent to actually say that he was just easy and he was there, I thought that was amazing.
Thank you. Mandy's performance in that, like we all gasped, like because you can imagine it a certain way, and we didn't imagine sort of how she would break in that moment, and we were like, we were blown away by her. But thank you.
I like the way that you guys, the dynamic that you put with Randall being adopted, and then at first, Mandy's character wasn't really too sure if she wanted, but then he became her favorite.
Yeah.
And then just the dynamic between, the siblings. I was like that with my brother, the fighting constantly, and just her, kind of dealing with that too. So.
Like the scene when Randall takes Kate to the library. That was so cute and and he's like the man in the library, and everybody's like, "What's up, Randall?" Like, and Kate's just amazed, like, "Wow, you're like superstar in here." Like, that was super cute. I really like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
So anything you want to tell us to expect?
Right, spoilers. We ready.
Tuesday's gonna be great.
I'm like, we'll turn the recorders off.
Yeah. Off the record.
Yeah.
Let's go.
I don't mind when people tell me the movie. I'm one of those people.
Yeah, I'm one of those people. Spoilers don't bother me.
I can
I
say
want to
some
know.
stuff. I mean, we can say we're gonna learn season 3. We're gonna learn sort of parts of Jack's life that we haven't yet seen. We're gonna sort of be shifting our focus away from talking about his death so much and sort of get into these other chapters that we think will be really exciting. Kevin's movie is going to be premiering, so we'll be dealing with that. He's single now. There might be some new romance. Randall, I don't want to talk about.
But we will be exploring Randall and Beth's origin. Of
Yes.
course.
Oh,
yeah.
awesome.
So it's all coming.
Any more special guest appearances? I was very excited to see Lena Waithe.
I'm sure of it.
Many.